All right, today we're going to dive into the story of the world's #1 killer. But this isn't just about statistics. We're going to look at the anatomy of a heart attack, from the silent threat that builds up for decades to that sudden life-or-death moment. Let's start with just how big this problem really is.
Let's just start with a number, 9 million. Just let that sink in for a second. It's a massive, staggering figure, and it points to this huge ongoing global crisis. But what does it actually represent?
That's how many people die from something called ischemic heart disease. We'll call it IHD for short, every single year. And get this, while that number is from high-resource countries, IHD is, by a huge margin, the single biggest cause of death across the entire planet.
So what exactly is this disease? Well, at its core, ischemic heart disease is a really simple but brutal imbalance. It's what happens when the heart's demand for oxygen-rich blood just can't be met by the supply it's getting.
So, in more than 90% of cases, the culprit is something called coronary artery disease. And this is a slow, silent process. It's called atherosclerosis, basically the hardening and clogging up of the arteries that feed your heart. And the scary part? It can start as early as childhood and just keep building for decades without you feeling a single thing.
Okay, so how does this actually happen? How does this build up? Well, let's imagine your coronary arteries are like the fuel lines for your heart's engine. Over many, many years, some really dangerous gunk can start to form inside them.
It all starts here with a perfectly healthy artery. See? Blood flows freely, no problem, delivering all the oxygen the heart muscle needs to do its job. But, slowly, these fatty deposits, which we call plaque, start to build up on the artery walls. And over decades, that plaque just keeps growing and growing until the artery is severely narrowed. The best way to think about it is like rust or corrosion inside a pipe, just slowly choking off the flow of water. And right here, this is the point where things get really, really dangerous. We've hit a tipping point.
This is what doctors call critical stenosis. Once a blockage clogs up more than 70% of that artery, the heart just can't get enough blood when you're working hard, exercising or even climbing stairs. And this is often the very first time someone might actually feel symptoms, like that classic crushing chest pain they call angina.
But look, having a stable clog that causes pain when you exercise is one thing. The real disaster, the heart attack itself, happens when that plaque suddenly becomes unstable. This is the moment everything changes. So what is it? What turns a silent, chronic problem into a sudden catastrophe? Well, the trigger. It's in the plaque itself. You see, not all plaques are the same. Some of them are what we call vulnerable plaques. They've got this thin, fragile cap over a big, soft, fatty core, and they are way more likely to just burst.
And when it does, this is the rapid-fire, fatal sequence of events. First, that vulnerable plaque ruptures. Bam! Its guts spill into the bloodstream, and the body sees it as an injury, so platelets rush in to form a clot, a thrombus. But here's the problem. In the super narrow space of that coronary artery, this helpful response turns deadly. That clot can grow so fast that within minutes it completely blocks all blood flow.
And the second that artery is blocked, a clock starts ticking. Within seconds, the heart muscle cells downstream run out of oxygen and stop making energy. In less than 2 minutes, they literally lose the ability to contract, to beat. And after just 20 to 40 minutes, those cells begin to die. And this is irreversible damage. This is why you always hear them say, time is muscle. Every second counts.
So once the damage is done, the body kicks into high gear, launching this multi-week process of cleanup and repair. It starts with this massive inflammatory response. But here's the critical thing to understand. The heart is not like your skin. It can't just regrow what was lost.
What you're looking at right here is the direct result of that blockage. This pale, kind of ghostly area, that's a myocardial infarction. It's dead heart muscle. It is a permanent wound. But the body's response is immediate.
So in the first 1 to 3 days, the body's emergency first responders show up. These are inflammatory cells called neutrophils, and you can see them here just swarming the area to start containing the damage and cleaning up the mess.
Then, around day 7, the specialized cleanup crew arrives. These cells are called macrophages, and they have one job, and one job only, to clear away all the dead and dying heart muscle cells. They're basically eating the debris to prep the site for repair. Starting around week 2, the body starts building a scaffold. This stuff is called granulation tissue. Think of it like a temporary matrix. It's filled with new blood vessels and collagen, and it lays the foundation for what will eventually become a scar. And finally, after about 6 weeks or so, the job is done. A dense, collagenous scar has permanently replaced the muscle that died. Now, it's a functional patch, for sure, but it is not muscle. It can't contract. It can't beat. The heart is forever changed.
So the heart is left with a permanent scar. And yeah, that sounds pretty grim, I know. But believe it or not, that's not the end of the story. In fact, this next part is all about hope. It's about how over the last half-century, we have learned to fight back against this disease with some absolutely breathtaking success.
You see, we're waging a war on two fronts here. First, there's prevention. That means controlling all the big risk factors, smoking, high cholesterol, blood pressure. And second, we have these revolutionary treatments, from cholesterol-busting statins to incredible procedures like angioplasty and stenting that can physically reopen those blocked arteries.
And the result of this two-pronged attack? Well, it's this incredible number, a 50% reduction. That's huge!
That's right. The death rate from ischemic heart disease in the U.S. has dropped by half since it peaked back in the 1960s. I mean, it is truly one of the greatest public health victories of our time, and it's all thanks to this combination of better prevention and these brilliant new treatments.
But the fight is definitely not over. We're facing brand new challenges now, like the global rise in obesity and diabetes. So the big question we have to ask ourselves is this: how do we build on this incredible progress? How do we continue this winning streak against the world's #1 killer?